Drew, you are best known for your field reporting, and I think we've covered just about all your big stuff. Do you have a favorite? Is it Kenosha stuff? What is your favorite content that you've created?
Man, I think it's a toughie. It's a toughie because I was in Portland, I was in Seattle in Chaz undercover.
Right.
But I think the Kenosha stuff really was the first time I kind of made world news, where that stuff like really blew up. I was getting hit up by like Israeli media, New Zealand, all over the place when I started to cover that riot on night 1. And then on night 3 of the riot is when I documented Kyle Rittenhouse defending himself legally and lawfully. He's been acquitted. Those videos went viral at the time. That was worldwide coverage. But then when I testified in the trial, that kind of really took things to another level that I never thought could ever end up. And I'm just an independent dude running around with a camera, just doing my best to show what the mainstream media was not only refusing to cover in 2020, but we're actually trying to lie about, right? Fiery, but mostly peaceful, calling them protests everywhere, but they were riots. They really were.
Yeah, and so what draws you to a specific location? Because you've been to a lot of dangerous places. It takes some level of physical bravery, which is there's not a lot of journalists who have that these days, though you used to think that would be a prerequisite for being a journalist. So what makes you think that I'm going to go out there and mix it up?
Well, I mean, in 2020, I wanted to expose the lie, and the predominant lie was that BLM and Antifa are not violently rioting. So I saw that in my home state at the time, California, Beverly Hills, went and documented that, and in Santa Monica as well. Then Chaz happened in Seattle, went there, then New York had some stuff going on, and then ultimately in Portland for like 150 days plus. So I guess as a Christian, I am attracted to whatever is a lie because I feel it inside of me, mandated by God to expose the lies. So I guess kind of like that mixed with reporting was just this cocktail that really ended up showing a lot and revealing a lot to the world. So I guess a lot of this comes from my Christian values of kind of pinpointing where the lies are in the mainstream and then going and showing what the American and the world people need to see.
It is amazing, even though I know it must have been a crazy circumstance. I want to ask you about it. But of course, we put up a lot of your footage at Breitbart, but to see you testify in that trial, that was kind of wild because, there's always a thought that when you're documenting something, maybe this ends up with some sort of protracted court battle. It really did happen to you. Was that very stressful? What was that experience like?
It was nerve-wracking, man, because I have never been in any environment like that before. I've never been in a courtroom setting like that before. I'm not legally trained. I'm not a lawyer. I don't even know like courtroom etiquette. Like I was making mistakes even at that level when I would say one thing and the judge is like, that's a normal thing. It's okay. So for me, I was like, this is huge. I see the lies that are coming out with the prosecutors at the time, and the story was changing and it wasn't true. So as a Christian, I was just praying. I was asking God, look, I've never done this before in my entire life. I could really mess this up. I could really go in there and say something thinking I'm saying the right thing and totally screw this kid's entire life for the rest of his life. So that was weighing heavy on my heart alongside of the conviction of going and doing what is right. Because in my own heart, I kind of knew like I have hours of body cam footage to really show the jury what happened that night in context in full. And I also have the footage of when he defended himself from Joseph Rosenbaum, right? So I didn't want to live the rest of my life knowing I could have done something or said something with the information that I had. But at the same time, I didn't want to go in there and blow it and ruin it. So I just prayed and was like, had a conversation with my wife. She's like, you need to do this. So I got on a plane, went, testified, and the rest was history.
Amazing. So I've never seen, maybe I've seen it, but it's rare to have the conservative movement rally to someone's side as much as they did with Kyle. It was pretty unbelievable to still see it where he went to rock star status. And I've been in this movement a long time, and I don't know if I recall seeing something exactly like this. Do you agree with that? And if so, why do you think that's been the case?
Well, I mean, it happens in like the church. It happens in, the mainstream where there's like child stars and they blow up. But in the context of like conservatism and the right wing, what I saw was a kid that almost lost his life. Sure. And there's been a lot of criticism as to blowing Kyle up and making him a superstar. No. The left does that. They make people superstars. They defame them. You had then candidate Joe Biden literally using him as the poster child of white supremacy on his campaign. So these people make superstars. But what happened with Kyle was we saw that they were going to try and ruin someone's life yet again over a lie laced with white supremacy. This was during 2020, okay? Everything was white supremacy. Black people are being shot and killed everywhere, which, by the way, they said Kyle shot black people. Never happened, okay? So what we saw was they made him a superstar because they lied and defamed him, which elevated the public to realize that here's another lie going on. We got to get behind someone that might lose his life because he defended himself as an American, right? From violent people, that we're not going to have a conversation with him at a protest. Violent people that were probably, in my opinion, going to do some extreme harm or maybe even kill him in the middle of a riot, okay? So what happened was Kyle became this symbol of hope, not because of who Kyle is, but because of what he experienced. Because that could have been any one of us, defending ourselves in the middle of chaos and almost losing your life for it, right? So because he won and because he was vindicated, I think it was kind of like a ray of hope in the middle of 2020. The lockdowns went down. People were losing their jobs, losing their lives. Everything was falling apart with $2 billion worth of damage being done across the United States by these rioters. We were just taking L after L after L after a few years of President Trump giving us W's. So I think in the middle of all of that, my personal spiritual opinion is I think God wanted us to give us a W and a ray of hope with some justice with what Kyle achieved. And when the right, because I've argued with people that are like, well, why are we making him a superstar? That's not what it is. We've taken so many L's. I think for once we got a W, so we have to get behind that.
Yeah,
we have to give God glory for that.
Remind me what Chaz is and what you saw there.
Chaz was the autonomous zone in Portland. It was multiple blocks. They literally called it not only an autonomous zone, they self-proclaimed themselves to be a country within the United States of America.
Yeah, they claimed they were their own country, their own sovereign nation in the middle of Portland.
Yes, and they had armed guards, okay, at the entrance zones. Okay, there were like 2, maybe 3 main entries, maybe 4, right? And they had armed guards, they were there, and anyone that they identified that was not friendly was not allowed any access. Especially at night is when things got really dangerous. They had their own laws written on the walls. They had their own rules written on the walls. Tim Pool called it a LARP farm. They were trying to farm themselves while they were camping out. Yes, okay, it's funny to think about, but it was violent. Because when the night fell, okay, they were looking around, making sure that there weren't people that shouldn't be there. If there were any journalists, I was there with Jack Posobiec and some others that were undercover as well. Anyone that was identified did get attacked that night.
The citywide government was fine with it.
They were. They called it the Summer of Love, right? So, but what happened was it collapsed from within. Because they declared themselves...
It happens in those autonomous zones.
Right, they declared themselves an autonomous country within America, but they still needed resources from the city. Because people were fainting, they were drug overdosing, there was all kinds of stuff going on in there. So who do you call at that point?
Right.
Oh, we call the police that we hate?
Yeah.
Oh, do we bring in the fire department and the taxpayer-funded outside of our country paramedics? That's what they had to resort to. Right. They weren't really autonomous, so it kind of crumbled from within, and obviously people were getting killed. So thank God that the city stepped in and put an end to it.
So who were you there with while you were there reporting?
At the time, I remember I was undercover. Jack Posobiec was there with his brother. Elijah Schaefer was there as well. Kaylin Dalmeda was there as well. Andy No was there as well, and some of the Daily Caller people as well. This was actually one of my first real undercover operations. It's kind of like where I learned a lot of stuff. They were attacking Christian preachers, just walking through, preaching the gospel. Literally, they would attack them, physically assault them, and drag the preachers across the entire autonomous zone from beginning to end. So it was just pure insanity with these people. But yeah, there were a lot of undercover reporters at the time, and Chaz was kind of like, it was kind of like a learning ground for me of what I was going to go on and do with Portland and Kenosha. So it was I don't know, I had to learn literally on the job. No one trained me, no one I mean, I did get some advice from people like Laura Logan that was giving me intel and helping me understand how Antifa works. Andy No as well. Yeah. So I kind of know my enemy and what to look out for. You got to, right?
I'm not a field reporter per se, but I've been in enough situations where sometimes it feels sort of safe and sometimes it feels very not safe.
Yeah.
And I've been in a few of those situations.
Yeah.
Probably not as many as you in your young career, but it's did you ever feel not good about the situation?
Absolutely. Particularly in Chaz, it was very violent. I started to realize that these people were organized. They would monitor Twitter. If you would post something in real time, they would find where you were based off of what you posted.
They figured that out with us. It totally changed, and it's effective. Like we have to think about that when we go to live places, because when we take things live,
yes,
we know we got 10 minutes until they find us.
Yep, absolutely. And that was kind of the things that I was discovering, and how to get around and how to look different and move different and talk different. It became a whole act in order to get this footage, but I knew that I needed to do it so that people could see what was going on. Yes. So definitely not just Seattle and Chaz, but Portland, even Kenosha. These people would literally build like dossiers on me, my body type, the clothes I would wear, the shoes and the boots I would wear, the type of phone that I use, specific nights I was there. They build these dossiers on all these reporters, right? But these are the so-called anarchists that don't believe in rules, right? But they would do that not because they're making sure that the right isn't out there to be propagating what's really going on. No, they were there to physically assault you, find you and physically assault you.
So do they openly look up to China, or is that just we're just supposed to find all these patterns of how they treat journalists?
Antifa?
Yeah, because it's just straight out of the communist.
They're not real anti-fascists. They're not. They are the real fascists. They're a bunch of LARPers because they run around and Tim Pool and I talk about this all the time. It's like they're not real anarchists because they have a set of rules. Yes. They actually dictate everything that's going on.
And they're more serious about their rules than we are about our rules.
Yes. They enforce them very aggressively. Yeah. They will literally promote, hey, we're going to have an event here in Portland and downtown, whatever, right? No filming. No filming at all unless you're an ally. You see what I'm saying? So there is a regime quality about
this. That's what I'm saying. It just sounds just like the CCP.
Yep,
like
exactly.
Your playbook comes from. Okay, so now you're doing Frontlines. So it's got a lot of humor to it. There's a lot of commentary, some reporting. Tell me about the show, where people can get it, and how it came about.
Yeah, so post the Rittenhouse trial, Turning Point approached me and said, hey, we love what you're doing. Charlie loves what you're doing. You're killing it. You're all over the place. We would love to come alongside of you and kind of blow some wind in your sails and kind of maybe build something out where you can maybe have a team of reporters alongside of you while you have your own show, breaking down the news of the day, putting your personality into it, but while continuing on the legacy of like on the ground reporting where people are watching in real time on the front lines what is taking place. I love the idea. I said, let's do it. Just don't try and change me or censor what I say or what I believe, and don't tell me who I can or cannot be friends with, and this will work. So it's been good up until this point, and I'm really thankful that Turning Point brought me on, gave me the ability to do it. Charlie Kirk has been a huge support for me to do what I'm doing and continuing to do. He's always hitting me up saying, dude, what do you think of this? Let's go here. Like when the whole Roe v. Wade stuff went down, Charlie was just communicating directly with me. Let's go to DC. If you got to go out there and wait for this decision to drop, you go stay out there for 2 weeks or a month. Let's do it. So that's what we're doing on Frontlines, is we're just trying to get on the ground and get the story so that people can see what's happening.
We need to inspire another generation of people to be willing the next time we have a summer of love to go out there and get in the field and get their hands dirty. And it is physically risky. It is. It just is. And, we do a lot of reporting in Mexico where, 5, 10, 15 journalists get killed every year in Mexico. But it doesn't mean you can't report. It's the opposite. You have to report. You get disappeared in China if you do any reporting. So it's the we cannot win long term without brave people. So what do you say to people who might say, I really admire what you're doing. I want to try something. What's the message?
Go for it. Fear God and go for it. Because without God, none of this is possible. People always ask me, how were you there in Kenosha? How were you there, standing there, documenting perfectly, recording what Kyle was doing? How did you end up being in there in the first place? I'm like, all I know is that I'm a Christian and that the Lord directs my steps. And he has these works destined for me that I should walk in them. And I definitely know that that was one of them. So as a Christian, that's how I live my life. I'm constantly trying to follow God. I'm not a perfect person, but I think right now more than ever, there's a reason why they're trying to dismantle the nuclear family. There's a reason why they're trying to take the mother out of the picture. Can't even identify what a woman is, trying to take the father out of fatherhood in his position, maybe even take the kids away from the parents, ultimately is an attack on God the Father.
You don't have faith that all of those trans drag queens with the giant double Z breasts that are implanted won't do a better job parenting my kids than I would?
Absolutely not.
Oh, that's okay.
No. These people are not going to take care of children. They hate children. And the point I was making is that the ultimate attack here is an attack on God. We are made in God's image. That is why they're attacking the biology of how we've been engineered. That is why all of this is taking place. And at the end of the day, they want us separated from our Creator. That is how we win and get things back.
You know what I've been finding? I've been finding people who are atheists and agnostic are starting to appreciate the Judeo-Christian underpinnings of our country. This is a pattern that I'm kind of liking, that without God, I don't know if the core values that we've based our society on, I don't think it works. When God is removed, what is replaced? It's the aforementioned drag queen story hour.
Yep.
Like that is what's going to fill the void. And it is and there's so many in our media who would like to see it happen.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think right now, in the timeline in the United States of America, God got us here, and it's going to take God to get us back to where we need to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it is another reminder, always commune with God as often as you can, and early and often. Drew, so if people want to watch Frontlines, what do they do?
Yeah, you guys can go to Real America's Voice on the app, download the app. My show airs Monday through Friday at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. Or you guys can watch it on Rumble, just search Frontlines with Drew Hernandez, and we get crazy.
Good for you, and let's do this again.
Thank you so much.